What happened? What made you stop and become ever so present and say, wait a minute, something, it's moving, it's all moving too fast?
47 was the tipping point. To put it in context, at 47, I'm the same age as when my dad passed away. From the outside looking in, everything looks great,
Right.
but it didn't feel great to me.
I think a lot of men would be scared to open up and share what you're sharing.
I was sitting there, it was my 10-year anniversary with my firm, 47th birthday, and I couldn't get out of my car.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Fearlessly Authentic. I'm your host, Jody Harrison Bauer, and I'm so happy to have you join me today. We have a wonderful guest on the show. And I also want to thank you for making us a top 5% globally ranked podcast. We have been working very, very hard. I've been doing this podcast for about 3.5 years. That's been a long time. I am thrilled to bring you so many wonderful guests. And today is a real treat for me because I actually feel like this guest is like the male version of me. That might sound a little narcissistic. We agree on so many things. So I can't wait to introduce you to him. And please remember to rate, review, and subscribe so we can keep bringing you wonderful guests. So today, my guest is Greg Scheinman. Hi, Greg.
Hey, Jody, congratulations, top 5%. That's amazing.
Yeah, well, I'm sure yours is up there also. When was the last time you checked?
You know, I don't actually even know, to be honest
Well,
with
I didn't know
you.
either until I was on this retreat in June, and one of the girls who does a podcast asked me to be on her show, and she said we're a top 5% globally ranked, and I'm like, let me find out what my podcast is, and that's how I found out.
It's
So
amazing. And it's a great segue. We can get into it quickly, but it's like you write a book, you start training these people, you do these shows, and you're always in like perpetual forward motion. You're thinking about the next one, or what did I learn from this one? What maybe did I get wrong? What can I do better? That it's we often don't take that time that you mentioned to stop, take a look, see how we're doing, pat ourselves in the back, acknowledge the success, all that you've done. So good for you. It's awesome.
thank you. It's always about being present, and I know we're going to get into that a lot in order to live our best life ever. But I want to introduce you to our audience. Greg Scheinman is a performance coach, podcast host, and author focused on helping men thrive in midlife. He created the Midlife Male podcast, where he interviews successful men who have redefined their lives. His book, The Midlife Male, right next to him, offers practical advice for men to overcome midlife challenges, prioritize health, and find meaning. With a background in fitness and entrepreneurship, Greg's work emphasizes fitness, mental health, relationships, and purpose. He's also a sought after speaker on men's health and personal growth. Again, welcome, welcome. That is a lot that you've accomplished. And I want to start with where this came from because you have been living a life of entrepreneurship and but something making money, providing for your family, giving your family the life that you want to give them, that they want. You grew up very well, quite privileged. You wanted to continue that life. What happened? What made you stop and become ever so present and say, wait a minute, something, it's moving, it's all moving too fast?
Mm, 47. 47 was the tipping point moment for
Mhm.
me. Now, while I won't say it was exactly one specific thing or one specific day, time, incident, to put it in context, at 47, I'm the same age as when my dad passed away. I was 17 at that time. Here I am, married, two kids. I'm a partner in a large risk management in an insurance firm. I have the reserved parking space in the building, the office on the 24th floor overlooking downtown Houston, the private schools that they and from the outside looking in, everything looks great,
Right.
but it didn't feel great to me. And when I looked in the mirror, I wasn't happy with what I saw back there. And that was all on me. What I realized is that the chasing of salary and title or keeping up with whoever the proverbial Joneses are, following the path, the conformity, complacency, which turned into redundancy, all of these things were taking a real big toll on me, physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, even financially. Uh, and I was sitting there, it was my 10-year anniversary with my firm, 47th birthday, and I couldn't get out of my car. Like I just couldn't go inside. And it was that, is this what my life has become? Is this what my life is going to be? It was almost that Billy Crystal City Slickers moment, like this is the best I'm going to look, the best I'm ever going to feel, the best I'm ever going to do. And it ain't that great. And nobody
I,
gets it really. And I couldn't tell my partners because
how
that would
can you,
jeopardize
that's
my
vulnerable, right?
I mean, I'm not going to tell my partners who are all in, on this business. I mean, I could jeopardize my future, my equity, my everything that's there. I don't want to bring it home and burden Kate, my wife, and my kids with all of this. I don't want to be the guy who his friends see him coming and they give him the kind of the Heisman, like, oh, here he comes with his complaining again.
Right,
And at the
right.
same time, all I was doing was around a lot of people that were complaining all the time, also.
Mm.
And I didn't want to fall into that misery loves company situation. And I had seen the other side as far as life to me was finite. 47 was the end. That's what I saw. And I said, I can either squander what's ahead and I can end up, you know, maybe being alive, but not enjoying it, or I could be gone. So, like, I've seen this movie, or I can make some changes and I can pour some rocket fuel on the next phase of my life and really try to make it the best phase. So what does that look like? What's that going to take? And how am I going to start doing that?
That's a lot to take in. And as a woman, I could even understand that. I was about 10 years younger than when you felt that. I was about 37 and perimenopausal. I had hit perimenopause and I didn't know it at the time, but started looking at my life and thinking, is this the life that I want to live? And I had all the things you're talking about. I had all the trimmings, the fancy cars, the fancy house, the private schools, the fancy vacations, all that shit. And that shit doesn't matter. I was fit and healthy, right? So I had my health. Um, but it was the other stuff. It was my mental well-being. Is the same question you just said. Is this the best life is going to be for me right now? Blessed to have two healthy children. And it wasn't because I was not being my fearlessly authentic self. And
Mm-hmm.
I know you talk a lot about authenticity, but as I'm hearing you say this and telling the beginning of your journey, I think there are a lot of men, which is why I wanted to have you on the show. We have a lot of female listeners, but we have male listeners too. And as you know, women will tell their husbands, you got to listen to this guy, right? Just, that's how it works. And I think a lot of men would be scared to open up and share what you're sharing.
Mm-hmm.
Is that what kind of led you to start talking about it more openly?
Absolutely, because I'm one of those guys who's scared to talk about it. I'm one of those guys who never talked about it. That's not how I came up. I came up as we don't talk about it. I came up as, hey, now I'm the man of the family. When my dad passed, also, I wasn't ready to be the man of the house. I wasn't ready to be a father figure to my brothers, there for my mom, any of that. And it was like, so now I don't have who I'm supposed to turn to, and I'm not capable. So just, okay, I guess we just got to own it. So I have never, quite frankly, been comfortable talking about it. I have never been great with therapy. I have never been great. So I, in a way, had to figure out what was my coping mechanism, what was my way going to be to learn how to make improvements and get better and try to gain this knowledge, information, insight, access without actually having to sit in a circle, and cry and pass a talking stick or go to therapy every day, and do all this other stuff that was so uncomfortable and so scary to me and talk to my friends and open up and get vulnerable. And that's how this really started, Joe. It was, okay, I don't know how. I know I need to do all these things. I have a crazy ego. I'm narcissistic. I don't know how to do this. I don't cry. I don't do it. So what am I going to do? And that's when I started my podcast, actually. I said, if I don't know the answer to the questions and I don't know how to do this, I'm going to start asking smarter people the questions. I can almost create a character, this midlife male character.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
now I have a force field up. I'm supposed to ask these questions. I'm supposed to go deep here.
Yes.
I'm the interviewer. I'm the quote unquote thought leader here. I just created this as a way to again protect and insulate myself from my own vulnerabilities and insecurities. And I started asking all these incredible people all these questions. And what was amazing is they were generous and thoughtful and insightful enough to share with me. They
You
were
know,
what I couldn't be. They gave it all to me. And I started aggregating from these conversations, curating it down to what I could actually implement in my life, eliminate the stuff that didn't work for me to build out what I called my maximized action plan. It ended up being a 3-year process to
wow.
transform from what I call mediocre to maximized in family, fitness, finance, food, fashion, fun, all these areas that I was interested in. I went to amazing people who gave me incredible insight and information, and I curated it into an operating system because that's how my mind works. Simplicity, like a golden retriever. Throw the ball, I'll bring it back to you. If I have a plan, I can follow it. Run a marathon. Here's how long, here's the date of the marathon, reverse engineer back to your training. I can follow it. Do 3 sets of 10. But as far as life went, I didn't have a business plan for my life. I didn't have an operating system for my life. And now I do. And now that's what I get to offer to other men out there to help them define, design, reframe, whatever you want to call it, what success looks like and how they operate. Because it's the actions you take. That's
Why,
what works towards the outcome.
why do you think men are so uncomfortable or scared to ask for help?
Well, that's a big question now because I think we've also seen kind of a seismic shift in
Mhm.
masculinity, this topic of toxic masculinity and positive masculinity, and where the line is even on masculinity. I think it started back again, I'm 51 right now. It started with men are strong, men don't cry, men go out, the a little bit of the hunter gatherer provider. This is like we go to work and then we have drinks afterwards and then we come home and we're not getting into all of this other vulnerability soft stuff. And
Yeah, it's
now
for the right.
so we're guarded. That's what we saw our fathers or our grandfathers or other, or maybe our bosses and our colleagues, however you were raised, to hold that stuff back or hold that stuff in. Quite frankly, now I think we've really swung the pendulum and have over-indexed so far on the other side that men are scared now. They don't know really what to do. Do I have to, if am I not a man if I'm not crying all the time and being vulnerable in 60,000 masterminds?
I
Like
agree. It's a
so
little too much. We need to find that balance. It's a little too much. We don't need to be that immature masculine. You could tell I'm pretty passionate about this because I see it. I mean, I have daughters, but I see it in that generation. My daughters are in their 30s, and I see that generation in particular about how the men have gone to be like, if they could give birth to their children, they would have that type of masculinity. You know what I mean?
I have 2 boys. It's very challenging to raise
I'm
young men right
sure
now. 21 and 18, my 2 boys.
that's a
And
lot.
they
Yeah.
tell me and they share the experiences that they are going through in their schools and their classes and what they're doing. Um, and it's very challenging to relate to. So
Mm.
I think we have fallen into what I call that over-indexing trap on that side. And I feel like one of the things that you and I talk about and agree on is I think it's about mastering the middle. I think the middle is the sweet spot. And rather than these high highs and low lows and extremes and over indexing, it's how do we build, again, a system that masters the middle, that calibrates for us so that it's true to what our own definition of success is, where our energy flows and goes, and what that looks like in all of these areas. And again, whether it's family or fitness or any of these topics that we're talking about, there's just a lot of white space between doing nothing and not
Mm.
being content and being happy, and being so over indexed that you're also overtrained, unhappy, never satisfied. And somewhere when we can really get together and really knowing what's important is what's the most important. And you don't know where you're going, you're never going to get there, you know? And as you talk about authenticity, chasing authenticity where authenticity doesn't exist is exhausting.
Mhm.
These things are in the bucket, and we got to really sit down and write it out. Hey, what does it look like? And then we got to test it and retest it. And I'm still upgrading my operating system every day now, every week, every quarter. But I'll tell you, it's a lot easier once you have version 1.0 or 2.0. Just like your cell phone, you can upgrade to 2.1, 2.2. It's easier to make those incremental adjustments and upgrades than it is to start from scratch. The hardest part is starting, which is a long way to get back to the answer of your question, which
Right.
is today is the day you start. There will be no perfect time. There will be no
Never.
day that you will not have fear. There will be no day that you are not scared and you are not, pessimistic at the outcome, uncertain of what it's going to be, and you do it anyway. You got to start anyway.
Got to start ready as a lie. We're never ready, right? We're never ready to become parents. We're never ready to start a business. We're never ready to start a podcast or write a book. But we do it anyway because we have a higher purpose. And going back to what you were saying about finding that balance, you and I were both agreeing on that, is I get the feeling from you that in just talking to you and when we first met, that I feel that we are the same in that way, where I used to be very extreme about everything I did. I either did it great or I didn't do it at all. It's either I win or I don't win. And I'm all about winning. Like, so when I was competing, I remember my coach saying to me, Harrison, just have fun. Just have fun with it. And I'd be like, no, I want to win. It was either I'm going to compete and win, or I can't compete and not just have fun. I mean, that just it's not in my mindset. But as we get older and we have that plan, that sustainable, the realistic goals with the sustainable plan that is always going to be upgraded, 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 right? Because once you have a really good plan and you know how to do the things from the right coach, then you could keep implementing and implementing. And it's like teaching somebody how to fish rather than fishing for them. And I feel that that's, I'm going to hold up your book. What your book is all about when you talk about your operating system is the midlife male, and the 6 F's.
Mhm.
So I feel like we should go right into that because I want everyone to know. But if you wanted to add something on to what I just said.
Sure. First, I'm competitive.
No, I know that. I
Like,
mean,
we're
knew
we're
that since I met you.
we're competitive people, and I support that. But I also think, to your point, it was a win or lose attitude for me for a long time. Now
Right.
it's a win or learn attitude.
Exactly.
And that's been a big growth step. That's been a big maturation step. That instead of I win or I lose, it's I win or I learn. And then how do we apply that to go forward? The other thing I just wanted to touch on is fun, which is one of the 6 F's. And I
Mhm.
wavered long and hard about whether or not fun sounded juvenile, fun should or shouldn't. I had marketing people tell me, fun shouldn't be in there. This is a deeper.
I had a guy break up with me because he said, Jody, you're not fun. This was during my 10 years of competing. Jody, you're not fun. I'm
Well,
like,
it also depends on what your definition of fun is. But where I
right.
was going with this is, what comes up more than anything is fun, because it shouldn't be the sixth one. In a way, it should be the first one, because if we're not having fun in life, what is the point of any of this? Now, your
Mhm.
definition of fun might be different from some people or others, and mine was for a long time. There was I would say, stereotypical nature of midlife fun, which could have been golfing and drinking and all this. And I get asked all the time now what I do for fun. This is what I do for fun. I
Mhm.
have these incredible conversations with amazing people. I get to share stories and experiences. I've swapped late nights and alcohol for earlier mornings and workouts. I put things on my calendar every quarter that are challenging in some area and related to these F's. These are the things that I do for fun. May not be everybody's version of fun, but again, to your operating system, what is your criteria?
Mhm.
What is fun for you? What does that look like? And what are you going to allocate towards living a fun life for you? Now, I've lost friends over this. I'm sure you have to. I've lost friends over this. I have lost clients in business over this.
Mhm.
I have debated about this. I've been on spring break with my kids when parents are like, live a little, over there. Like, and they're 20 beers in at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And my answer is, I actually live a lot because you know what? I got to see the sunrise this morning. And you did, it's just not judging, no assumptions or judgments, but different definitions of fun. And what I want people to understand is that it's all possible again. Whatever you're interested in, whatever you want to do, whatever you haven't tried, whatever hobby, behavior, it's out there. And there are people that will support you. You will make new friends. You will sign new clients. Again, the hard part is starting, getting over the fear, getting out of that comfort zone, getting out of what you're used to, and saying, you know what? I'm going to say no to this and I'm going to say yes to this. I'm going to try this different thing. And if it doesn't work again, I've learned something and I'm going to try something different again. The people in my life right now at 51 are so different than the people that were in my life 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago.
Right.
If I had to get married again today, and I pulled up the guest list from our wedding 25 years ago, and then I wrote a guest list for who I would invite today, probably a 95% differential.
Was it at 47 when you described at the beginning, sitting in your car and realizing that you needed to make changes in your life? Um, what was the first step, and what, for men and women listening, what can be the first step? Because they are going to be scared because they're going outside their comfort zone. Everything is going to be different, but that's what they wanted. Wherever they were at that moment, they're like, I want to do things differently. I don't want to keep drinking. I don't want to gain weight. I need to get fit, healthy, have more fun, prioritize family.
I'll give you the simplest one. I'll give you, because I have 5 rules, 6 F's, one question.
I love
Okay.
your 5 rules. Are we going to do the 5 rules right now?
So let's start there because before we
Okay.
can get into the F's, this is where it starts.
Okay.
It starts, first of all, with one question. If you really want to break it down to the simplest way to make better decisions in life and start making improvements, this is the simplest way you can do it. I want you to ask yourself this question: better one or better two? I ask myself this question all day, every day. On average, we make 34,000 decisions apparently in a day. Okay. Better one or better two? And the reason I got this from going to the eye doctor, I have bad eyes. And they put you in front of the phoropter and they turn the lenses around if you've ever been to the eye doctor, and they keep asking this question: better one or better two? You answer the question, and ultimately at the end of this series, over and over again, the series of making the right choices, they reveal clarity. You can read your prescription, and that's what you have. I just started asking this question to myself every day in my life. Should I kiss my wife good morning, or should I roll out of bed and ignore her? Better one or better two?
Mm,
Should I drink a soda, or should I swap it for water? Better one or better two? Should I meal prep the night before, or am I going to end up at the drive-through tomorrow in between meetings? Better one or better two? Should I sleep in, or should I go to the gym today? Better one
mm,
or better two? And sometimes it's a series of these. But when you start making the better choice the majority of the time, the majority of your life gets better. Not all the time. Perfect is the enemy of good, but the majority of the time. And that's where I started. Didn't like when I was waking up. Is waking up at 7 better than waking up at 9? Better one or better two? We know the answers to the test,
right.
including now, should I go for a walk or should I lift heavy? What is my body telling me?
Mm,
What are my priorities? That question started shaping the way I was making decisions. And like George Costanza in Seinfeld, nothing was working, so he just did the opposite.
right.
It's
Right.
it's very similar. Things were not working. So let
Right.
me ask myself a really simple question. And instead of doing what would come to me naturally, which is right, I'm going to make the better choice. And when I make the wrong choice, I'm not going to beat myself up. But if I can start making 5 out of 10 choices better, 6, 7, again, into the majority and getting reps doing this, all of a sudden I got happier. Over time, I got happier. I got healthier. I got more relaxed. I had less stress and less anxiety. It became clear, just make the better choice. And when you break the streak, start a new one. And that led to the 5 rules.
Okay. I think I just want to make a comment about that. I know you're saying it very simplistically right now, but it's not easy, right? Starting is hard, and we all know that. Making the right decisions, we all know that intuitively, but so many of us don't.
Correct. Simple
And
is
it's
hard, which is
simple is hard. And
why
everybody, which is
don't do it.
why everybody wants to complicate things, because the more complicated it can get, then the less they don't have to do. Do you agree with that?
It's easy to complicate things. More is always easier than less. More is
Right.
not better. Better is better.
Better.
Simple is hard enough.
So true.
And if we can keep repeating that to ourselves, keep it simple, one good choice at a time.
Yep.
Okay, then how long can I keep this going? Again, when I break the streak, let me start again. The basics, the fundamentals work. Yes, it's very hard because it's easier to say yes to that invitation. That it's
Mhm.
easier to sleep in. It's easier, again, if you have lots of money and maybe there's no pain, there's no ram, but we always know. We know the difference.
We do. We
You
do.
know,
And
our intuition is really good and you trust your gut and there's a reason you feel a certain way. And when you start to have that pride, again, that authenticity, those things start filling your tank rather than draining them. That's momentum.
yeah, I love that.
It builds. That's an amazing catalyst. And I say progress is a process. This
Mm.
is just a process, and you've got to work it every single day. Just like there's never going to be a point in your life, no matter how fit you are, Jody, and you are, where you go, I'm done. Like I can stay at this. I've now I'm finished, and if I don't do anything else, I'm not going to lose any of this at all. I am fit for life.
Right.
Never, we're done. We're never done.
Never going to happen. We're going to stop here. We have to take a quick break. So stay with us, everybody, and we'll see you in a minute.
You are listening to Fearlessly Authentic with Jody Harrison Bauer. We'd love to hear from you with any questions or comments you may have. Send an email to info@jodyharrisonbauer.com. That's info@jodyharrisonbauer.com. Now, back to Fearlessly Authentic.
Welcome back, everybody. We are here with Greg Scheinman, author of The Midlife Male and podcast host of The Midlife Male. And it is basically his no bullshit blueprint to living the best life you can. How's that? Did I sum it up pretty well?
You did.
Um,
You're the female version of me. This is great.
it's ridiculous. It's just ridiculous. How did this happen? So we were going to get into the rules and your 6 F's, which is what your book is based on, what you talk about. It's sort of your operating system, right? So let's get into it. Family, number one.
Yes, the rules, the 6 F's are in order: family, fitness, finance, food, fashion, and fun. And I'll tell you what, first of all, family is number one for me, and family is number one. My wife, my kids, my family. I also consider friends who are family in there. So whatever your situation is, again, mine is family first.
Mhm.
That looks like what's going on in my own house for me. So that's my North Star. That's how I operate. That's who I report to, if you will. That's who I want to really please. So family is number one.
Well, I want to stop at family for a second.
Sure.
Was that something that when you were not in the greatest place of all, maybe drinking too much, eating too much, not working out enough, was family a priority to you then? Has family always been a priority and you just did it just go up even more? Explain to me how.
That's a great question. Yes. So family was always a priority to me. I always believed that family was my number one priority, my wife and my kids. I was misaligned in how I was prioritizing my family.
Explain.
I, meaning I was doing a lot of things that I thought I should be doing. As I was prioritizing, again, career, salary, title, providing, which often comes at a compromise of time,
Yes.
availability, presence,
Right.
tension, um, my moods, all of these things. I was doing what I thought I was supposed to do, even what I saw my father do too. Get up, get dressed, put the suit on, go to work, hang on. And if you miss breakfast or you miss dinner or you have to go out after work and see a client, those are the sacrifices and choices that you're supposed to be making.
Yep.
But my family, of course, is first. But at the same time, I found my family probably suffering a little bit. And I found myself suffering because that's where I wanted to be.
Mhm.
I wanted to be home for dinner. I wanted to drive my boys to school. I wanted to coach the teams. And I was being pulled in this direction where that was not what I was seeing the majority of the other men around me doing. So, in order to compete, in order to keep up, in order to do, that was a tough spot to be in. So, it was to answer your question, it was a realignment of my priorities. Meaning, if you're going to, like I say now, show me your calendar, I'll show you your priorities.
Mhm.
My family stuff goes on my calendar first. For a
I
long
love.
period of time, it was the other way around.
Yeah, I mean, I was married to a man like that. And in that old school type of thinking, it was, well, I'm providing for you. This is how we do this, and this is what we'll have for the future. And my gripe was, but I married you because I loved you and I want to be with you. And I think a lot of men do struggle with, how do I really make my family a priority and not lose money, financial security in the meantime? So how did you do it? Did you have to step away from your business a little bit?
Absolutely differently. And I had partners in various businesses and investors in various businesses with different mindsets because
Mm,
their priorities were different. Return on investment, growing businesses, growing the value, all of those other things. So, yeah, it's challenging and it's hard. And you have to be strategic and tactical about it. And I also want to touch on this is different at different phases and stages of life.
mm,
20s, 30s, 40s, so on and so forth. The way that I'm able to make choices and decisions now is different, than when I was in my 20s and trying to buy my first house, if you will, trying to do, certain things. So this is not a drop everything and all of a sudden you're the stay-at-home dad, again, back to the extremes. This
mm,
is about, again, trying to master the middle. What does success look like? What do I call total life wellness? What does
mhm,
that look like? And how close can we get to that? So that's where certain rules and standards started to come in. Okay, I can see X amount of clients and generate X amount of income and be in the top 10 of our sales performers. And now I can also coach Little League. But if I grew my book of business, if I doubled it, it
mhm.
would be impossible. The bandwidth would not be there.
Right.
So you start thinking again, what does success look like? Does this cost me some money? Potentially does. Does it cost me some additional equity? Because I'm not performing at the same level of the other guys who might not be willing to make the same trade. But what am I getting in return? I'm not the first one in and the last one out.
Mhm,
I am coaching my boys. I am taking them. And okay, I can put a delta on that
mm,
in terms of my operating system. Now, depending upon where you are in life, what you again get to do, have to do, want to do,
mm,
you have to strategize and balance all that stuff out too. I had times when I was working for other people and my choices were limited in terms of it's what I have to do, it's what I'm told to do, what I have to do. There were other times when I owned businesses and was running businesses and I had different degrees of flexibility. There were times when I owned and operated the business and I had no flexibility because if I wasn't running and operating the business all the time, there was no business.
right. Right.
So we created standards around that we discussed at home too. So my
Mhm,
standard has always been 80% of my children's games. I will attend 80% of your games, either coaching or attendance, which gives me 20% to not be there. So when that priority meeting comes up, when that travel comes up, the things that we have, in order for our family to be able to do the things that we want to do and get to do, there's a 20% gap in there. And my kids understand that. and they have for years. My wife understands that. But this takes time and communication and collaboration. Same way they know, look, my son started his senior year of high school yesterday. And I woke him up at 6 o'clock in the morning, gave him a kiss, said, have a great day, sent him a text, and then I went to the gym. So from 6:30 to 8:30, I was at the gym because I had, and he left for school, took the picture with his mom at 8 o'clock. I wasn't there. But we talked about it.
Right.
Ahead of time. About what we did before, what we've done all summer leading up to everything. I told my wife, I'm the one who's waking him up. We're going to talk about it. Okay, you get, because this is how you've got a job, I've got a job. This is how collectively we thrive as a family. I don't miss workouts for sure. We have a hike coming up. We have certain things. These are the habits, healthy habits, behaviors, again, that we have developed. He gets it. I get it. And the reason I don't miss that workout and I kiss him goodbye and I see him in the morning is because 2 weeks from now, I want that text where he says he's proud of me that I finished that event, that hike. And I'm not going to finish it and succeed if I'm not trained for it.
And I think it's also a lot of what you're saying. I agree with you. The communication is so key. The collaboration is so key. It's what a lot of old school thinking, maybe my generation, coming into all this, didn't know how to communicate that well, didn't know how to collaborate with their stay-at-home wife, which is what I was back in my old life. And it was just understood because we both came from that same life. And I love the way you're explaining this to the listeners, that there needs to be that communication. And also the last thing you said about, and I want my son to be proud of me that I finished this hike, because I think it's also important to show our children, which again, from in my ex-marriage, my old life, my daughters didn't see me competing. I mean, until after I was divorced, because I wasn't allowed to compete in fitness shows when I was still his wife. So I think seeing a parent start something and finish it and reach that level of success, gratification, watching your parent reach a goal, setting a goal, reaching a goal, I think is huge to show your kids. Huge. That it really, sort of what we were talking about at the beginning, doesn't matter if you win or that you had the best time, but that you created this goal, you had a plan, and now you finished it. That I just think that's huge to show our kids.
I hope so. And I think whatever, again, your hobby, your habits and behaviors are, this is about living and leading by example. And I hope to show also my boys, other parent out there, look, I'm a slow learner and a late bloomer.
So am I. I heard you say that. So am I. And I thought, again, mind blowing, this man, like, same way.
This is about stopping, stop seeing aging as something to fear, start seeing it as something aspirational, live and lead by example. Our best days are in front of us. They're not behind us. These are the things that I'm trying to perpetuate. These are the things that I genuinely believe. Because right now I am energized. Right now I feel I have made certain improvements. And now I want to pay it forward. Now, like, this is what I want my boys to see. They're getting older too, and they're 21, 18, graduation, starting their lives. What are they thinking about when they hear 30, 40, 50, 60 there? And they don't have their grandfathers around. And I don't have that either. So what example are we setting? When they look around at the other dads and other what are they seeing? And this is how, again, we learn, how we grow, and I think how we evolve. And we can squander, like I said, we can squander these chances and opportunities, or we can choose to really ignite ourselves in this phase of our lives. And it still comes back to what we talk: simplicity, authenticity, energy, integrity, operating with intention and purpose. These things, they matter. And all of them are choices. That's the part of it. They're all choices.
So let me ask you a question. For the man listening right now, who can totally resonate with everything that you're saying, what's the first thing, what's an actionable step you can give him?
One, go back to these rules. Knowing what's important is what's most important. I think you got to really figure that out first. That's what became my 6 Fs. It was saying, hey, what's most important? I got to stop chasing salary and title or these things that are not truly important or they're not aligned with who I am. And what's really important, what makes up my pie chart, my holistic metric of success? Family, fitness, finance, food, fashion, fun. How am I going to approach these areas? The second is, if you don't know where you're going, you're never going to get there. To that guy who's stuck again and confused, and one, you can ask for help. Get a coach, get a mentor, get an advisor, listen to your podcast, listen to my, read the book. It's all out there, but commit. And you have to have a plan and you have to have a destination. And then you have to reverse engineer back to what annual, quarterly, monthly, weekly, and ultimately daily positive action steps you are going to take to get there. And that's the progress as a process part. That is the better one or better two. Those little choices, 1% better per day, they stack up over time. But you got to know where you're going.
Got to know where you're going.
The third one I think is hugely important. Aggregate, curate, and eliminate. What I call my ACE principle. There is so much noise out there, so much confusion, and you've got to aggregate from all of that noise, all of that BS, everybody's opinions and everything that are out there. And then you've got to, the key is you got to curate it down to what works for you. And then you eliminate what does not. And you got to be relentless about sticking to that because it's easy to get distracted. More is everywhere. Busy is everywhere. Yes is easy. Complicated is easier than simple. I mean, all these. So you got to be relentless with the aggregation, the curation, and ultimately the elimination of what you choose to do. And then the next one is quantify it. Show me your calendar. I'll show you your priorities. What we schedule gets done. If you tell me your family is your priority, show me. I have my clients, show me. If you tell me your fitness is your priority, show me. If you tell me fun is important to you and I can't measurably and quantifiably see it on your calendar, right. And then the last one is we're way too hard on ourselves. So I call it grace, gratitude, and latitude. During this entire process, you have to be kind to yourself. You will make mistakes, missteps. You will piss people off. You'll disappoint yourself. You will break the streak that you set out to do. And you have to turn the page. Be kind to yourself and start over.
Right.
Because we overestimate what we can do in a day and we underestimate what we can do in a year.
Yeah, being realistic is so important. From all my years of training clients, and sitting down, you have to set the goals first. And if they're not realistic within the time frame that we're setting, then she's going to be disappointed. And I would never set her up for failure, right? And for the client who wants, well, I want to get this done right away, the quick fix. It's like, none of this can be done quickly. How long did it take you to get where you are? We're not going to spend that much time getting you to the next place, but you've got to be patient. And I love where you talk about giving yourself, compassion, gratitude, latitude to make those mistakes, jump back up on the horse and say, I'm going to try it again. We can't give up.
Well, I think you also have to realize we're playing the long game.
Right.
And yes, is it natural to want instant gratification? Again, do we want 7-minute abs? Do we want, a quick investment that's going to return tenfold? Like, of course we want it easier and faster and cheaper and without having to, to put the hard work and the grit and everything in it. And could you drop 20 pounds in a short period of time? Sure you could. Could you make a quick dollar, I'm sure you could, but is it sustainable? And we know people that have dropped it and put it right back on. People who made it and lost it and struggle to make it again. What we're talking about here is standards. You can set the goals, but what we're really talking about is backing into the standards that make your goals inevitable, the achievement of your goals inevitable. And when you operate to those standards every day, like, you can stop worrying about the goal. you're going to get there because you know where you're going. You know what's important. You're operating to certain standards, meaning you're eating a certain way. You're working a certain way. You're looking at your calendar each day. You're following. Okay, this is inevitable.
Right.
I'm a good investment, right? You know, I'm backable right now in these areas.
Mhm.
Do you want uncertainty? Do you want kind of high highs, low lows? Maybe they'll show up today, maybe they won't tomorrow, maybe they'll eat this, maybe they won't. Or do you want to be able to bet on somebody that is solid? Get up, get dressed, do the work, put it in every day, fall down, get back up.
Get
I mean,
back up.
that's really all we're talking about here. This
Right.
is not complicated. It's
No, it's
blocking
you.
and tackling.
I heard you talk about, what did you say? Chronic consistency.
Hmm.
And I always talk about consistency too. There were a few things that I picked up on that you say consistently. Chronic consistency, midlife is messy, um, success is doing less with more focus.
Yeah.
Um,
The thing
and
about
I love that you've also said that you like to feel look good naked, which was the name of a program I had in my fitness studio. Um, and all of these things that you throw out are great motivators. Do you think that, I know you're calling this midlife male, but so many of the things that you've said can relate to women and they're not necessarily midlife.
100%. I say one as a slow learner and a late bloomer. I wish I picked some of these things up earlier. I believe wholeheartedly better one or better two, six F's, five rules, any age, any stage you are at, you can benefit from following these. I
Mhm.
absolutely in there. So I don't think it's gender specific. I don't think it's age specific. I just think I'm late to the party. And the reason it's midlife male is because that's where I am right now at 51, almost 52, okay, it's almost 55. You know, this is my lane.
Mhm.
And in terms of simplicity, hey, I can speak to being a midlife male because that's where I am. What I hope is I hope it casts a much, much wider net to be relatable, credible, and hopefully aspirational. But wherever you are in life, this applies. I wish I had it in 20 again, and I'm going to evolve it and keep expanding on it when I get to 60 and 70. And those are the guys I'm looking at right now who are helping me see where the puck is going. You know, you mentioned also the word motivation. I want to touch on that too, because I think that's a bit of a sticky topic. And I get into the motivational speaker, you know, or inspirit category. And the truth is, and I think you know this too, we're not that motivated. I'm not more motivated than the next guy. Or I don't buy into Monday motivation and motivational
Yeah,
memes and
neither to me either.
no. The truth is it's discipline.
Right.
It's discipline over motivation.
Totally.
And you touch on consistency. Hey, here's the deal. We're all partners. We're all fucking consistent. Some of
Mhm.
us are just consistently making poor choices. Some of us are making consistently good choices. So it's the discipline and the purpose that leads the way. I can assure you, I'm not smarter than you. I am not more motivated than you. I don't want to wake up and go do half the stuff that I do. But when I make my list the night before of the three personal things I'm going to do tomorrow and the three professional things I'm going to do tomorrow, and I wake up in the morning, I do it whether I want to do it or not. And that's been the difference maker because for a long time I wasn't that guy. And when you stop breaking the promises you make to yourself, and you stop breaking the promises you make to others, and you stop making too many promises, period, your life is going to get better.
Absolutely. And every time you keep that promise to yourself, it builds your confidence more to go back and do it again, do it again, do it again. And eventually, depending on what your purpose is, I think for both of us, it's helping others have that life, have the things, be smarter than we were at that age to understand what it's like to live a longer, healthier life.
We'll use that. You know, it's the opposite of what we tend to think things are. We think we need the motivation to do the thing. No, you do the thing and then you get the motivation. It goes the other way.
Right.
It's doing the work, putting it in, finishing it, completing it, being proud of yourself again that you got it done. That is what sparks you to do it again. That's the motivation. And it's not the other way around. It's internal. When you
Right.
walk by that mirror and you look at it, you know. It's not waiting for Jody to tell you to do it or waiting for Greg to tell you to do it. We can help as best we possibly can. And we want to. But you know the way I help people the most? Getting up and doing it.
Yep.
Hey, the people that see me, hey, I've had guys come up and tell me, I wasn't going to come today, but I knew you'd be here.
Wow. Don't you love that?
Yeah.
I love that.
Well, hey, I saw you do it yesterday and that looked like it sucked. And I got up and did it
Hmm.
for that.
We
Or
have,
accountability is a huge piece of that, and having that support. And that's where I think some of these groups can be helpful. That's where I think podcasts like your other, hey, I know she's doing it. I know he's out there doing it.
right.
I need to feel somebody in my corner. That's different from motivation too. That's somebody to help me be accountable. That's somebody I know who's suffering a little bit with me.
So how can our listeners get in touch with you? I have two questions. That one,
Okay.
how can they get in touch with you?
So midlifemale.com. That is where we put out our podcast. That is where we put out our flagship weekly newsletter. That is where I answer everything. You can get the book, you can get information on coaching, speaking, and a plethora of content all around all of the F's where we share access, insights, experiences, everything. So that's the home base. You can find me on Instagram at Greg Scheinman. You can reach out to me. I try to get back to everybody I possibly can. I do free discovery calls for people that are interested in coaching and services, and like you, just trying to help where I can.
Yeah, I mean, I love what you're talking about. Obviously, that's why I wanted to have you on the show. I think so many men need you and so many women need you to talk to their men. I think it's you are helping a lot of people. So my very last question for you is, what does it mean for you to live a fearlessly authentic life?
I think it's being content. I
Ah,
think I think it's a little bit of the opposite. I think it's when you're not being your authentic self. And
mm,
I've said this before, like when you're authentic, you don't have to say it. You're living it and you're feeling it. It's like people starting the sentence with, let me be honest with you. Should I make the assumption that you're not all the time? Honest, you're honest. When you're authentic, you're authentic. And I think what it really means to be fearlessly authentic is that I don't have to question that anymore.
mm,
Is That's not something I'm concerned with anymore. And I was for a long time because it didn't feel natural. It didn't feel authentic. And that feeling is gone.
mm.
And when I feel it coming back or entering in, my awareness level is up. And I don't lean into that direction anymore or feel like I need to conform or go in that direction.
Thank
So
you.
I really think it's eliminating the question and operating in a manner that genuinely feels so authentic to you that you no longer have to even say it.
I love that. Thank you. Greg Scheinman, thank you so much for being on Fearlessly Authentic. And everybody, please remember to rate, review, and subscribe, and we will see you next week. Bye-bye.